In building a statue, the sculptor doesn't keep adding clay to his subject. Actually, he keeps chiseling away at the non-essentials until the truth of his creation is revealed without obstruction. Bruce Lee. Hi, how's it going, everybody? I hope you guys are having a good day. It was really nice out today. It was about 70. I think I almost hit 80. And it's going to snow this Sunday, and it snowed. Actually, had a freezing rain last Wednesday or last Thursday. So weather here is kind of weird, but the buds on my apple trees are starting to form, so that's a good thing. So I wanted to continue on this topic because I started this topic on Sunday during the afternoon while my son was attempting to get his nap done, but that didn't happen for very long. So they came down and wanted to go to the playground, so I went out and took them to the playground. Before we go on that, though, I do want to go over something which I may do kind of a full thing some other stream, but I thought I'd just mention it here. I was just kind of looking at some data, basically websites, and Good Morning America had a YouTube video, although if you go to it now, it's private. That's where I found it, but if you go to the website, you'll see it there. And I'm gonna try to see if I could find. Here it is. This is the link to the video that's set to private. I don't know why they don't have it up on YouTube, even though you can watch it here. And I'll go ahead and play it back later on. I'm going to mute it though when I do, so I don't get a strike or anything like that. But anyways, it's just a little bit of statistics, since we can't really get that good of a statistics from just a wide range of people. So but at least these people are celebrities and public figures, whether they're singers, actors, politicians, sports athletes, and all that stuff. And they've all been told, or they've told the mainstream media press, that there is that they had coronavirus, or they're positive for it, or whatever it is. And it's funny because when you look in the videos and you're watching them saying, "Yeah, I've got coronavirus," none of them look sick. None of them look like they have something that would be systemic to a pandemic, where the entire world pretty much shut down due to something that a lot of these people seem to have, even though they seem okay. All right, now these statistics are a lot higher than most, and it's not really in depth. Basically, I'm just saying, okay, who had it, who else was involved, like they have a family member or something like that, a spouse like Tom Hanks, Rita Wilson, Idris Elba, whatever, and just if they survived, that's fine. If they die, I want to know about what their age was and if they had a pre-existing condition. Now, of course, the places where I'm getting the data from, they don't say a lot whether they had a pre-existing condition. Of course, all the medical stuff is going to be iffy, right? It's like pre-existing condition. They're not going to say it's that doctor patient thing where they want to keep it under wraps. Anyways, I just got a whole bunch of this and I just decided to put it together, and how many survived, how many died, the survival percentage, the death percentage, and the ones who died, what their average death was, the minimum age. That means who's the youngest one that died, who's the maximum age that died. And I counted everyone, even though they mentioned that they had some ongoing issues already. And of course, once you reach a certain age, I'm pretty sure you're going to have some sort of pre-existing condition. But whatever it is, they seem to go, well, yeah, this person died due to coronavirus, COVID-19. Now, Isaac Robinson's is an odd case because I actually read the details, and they say this person died, unfortunately, and of course this is unknown causes right here. And here's the article on Isaac Robertson, who's Michigan state representative. Family suspects COVID-19. He looks like a pretty heavyweight fella. But anyways, the Associated Press reports his mother, former Representative Rosemary C. Johnson, said her son died hours after being transported to a hospital for breathing problems, and the family suspected he suffered from COVID-19, but he had not been tested for the virus that causes the disease. So how do you know? They just say it's suspected. And of course, and the cause of death was not immediately released. But of course, you'll go ahead and see mainstream media go ahead and report that suspects it's COVID-19. Of all other things, like I would say, probably heart failure. Probably had too much cholesterol or something like that. Whatever it is. Anyways, let's see. I think that's pretty much it. I mean, you can kind of look over at a lot of these other types of celebrity deaths, and they usually have videos or they have tweets where they go, "Hello everybody, I just got the news. I've got tested for coronavirus and tested positive." And they're pretty much fine after that. You don't see many tweets. Now I'm gonna go ahead and replay this back. It's almost 6 minutes long. It's actually longer than the other video. But what I want to do is eventually just pause it, because they did a collaboration of people who say, on live video they have coronavirus or COVID-19. They tested positive, and you can just see. All right, they don't look like they're very sick. Here we go.
Room. The only person that comes in is George.
So does George have it, or is George like in a full hazmat suit type of thing, so he doesn't get it? So does George have it or not have it? I mean, is it really is he susceptible to have it or not? And these are things, of course, most people should ask themselves, but they don't. I think one of the... Oh, here we go. This is Sarah Bareilles, I think.
So I'm fully recovered, just so you know.
She just had it. She's fully recovered, just so you know. No issues at all. This pandemic that's shut down everything. And people go along with it. People go along with the entire thing. Like someone was mentioning how they had to do a fever test, right? They had to do a fever test when people come into work, and if their fever's too high, then they can't work. It's sad to have them go, because people have to figure out how to pay their rent and all this other jazz. It's like, well, just let them work. It's like, what? I go, okay, how many of your workers have COVID-19? And they go, I don't know. How many of your coworkers have had COVID-19? Probably none. Well, how many of them died from COVID-19, if any of them had it? None. So it's like, okay then. And also, if someone could have COVID-19 and their temperatures could be low, they could be a carrier or whatever. I think news has even talked about that. And they go, well, yeah. And so I go, well, how good is that temperature test then? These people kill me. Anyways,
find myself on the other side of the illness, but still in no less a state of social distance and general isolation.
That guy doesn't seem very much affected. This guy, actually probably looks better with the COVID-19 than he does it when he doesn't.
Taken a test that has come out positive.
He was admitted in
intensive care. Whatever. He was just given oxygen. You go to intensive care, they'll just give you oxygen. That's funny. Oh yeah, okay. So another person is positive for coronavirus. And, you know, you would think it's like people with like Spanish plague or bubonic plague or whatever. If they ever had internet or something like that, they'd have all these like bubbles and they'd be like, you know, tears streaming, mucus and all over the. I got plague. I mean, even if I'm just sick with like a normal flu, when I used to be sick all the time, because I would be like, I wouldn't be able to say I've got a flu even. And, you know, this what COVID-19 is supposed to be like so many times worse. These people are like, it's just no normal day. I've tested positive.
Is positive for coronavirus. Found out this morning.
And people are like, oh no, they're tested positive. And next thing you know, probably like a week later, 2 weeks later, a month later, a year later, they're fine. And of course, they're going to push the narrative. So we're going to keep going. All right.
Days, which I've recovered from.
So it's like, oh, he had it for a couple of days and recovered from it. It's just a couple of days.
This morning, I got some test results.
Like this, it's this morning at this one, Edge's Elba. It's this morning he took a test. That morning he took a test, and the results back he's got coronavirus.
Back for coronavirus, and it came back positive.
Now it makes you wonder. Well, these coronavirus tests are bunk, or these guys are lying and they're not sick. I mean, they are actors. Or this coronavirus just really isn't that bad.
It sucks.
So we'll keep it running for a little bit. I know I'm delaying the main topic, but we'll get there. I think this is good to have. You know, who knows? Maybe they'll take down a couple of coronavirus COVID-19 videos, but since this one is kind of snuck in there, maybe they won't see it. Although I've said coronavirus COVID-19 so many times, they could just find it through the algorithm. Daniel Day Kim, say it ain't so.
I tested positive for COVID-19.
That was the day before he just filmed that. I tested positive for COVID-19. I'm all right now. You know, you don't see any indications I've got anything bad going on. So we keep going and going and going. You know, at least they're not doing the videos. They actually just have a picture and say, I tested positive. How's it going, Tiger Doug? Flathead positive. I know, right? Test this morning and later in the day, the Celebrate Testing Lab has the results for Mr. Elba. Yeah. And here's, oh, okay. That's just his wife, Sophie. That's right. Has been tested for COVID-19. Came back positive. So I'm just waiting for some more videos. People don't look into the details. They just look at the headlines. They read the book by the cover, you know, all that jazz. Devil's in the details, they always say, you know. I wonder what devil did they mean. So let's see. We're almost done. Okay.
Like a few days ago, got my test results back today, and they are positive.
So that's another thing. So they have it for a couple of days and they're fine, and then it comes back that they're positive. So are they carriers now? You know, that how long does it carry within them if they're over it, you know? So is it still in their system? They can give it to others. You know, they don't seem to mention all those specifics, do they? And kept the entire family healthy as well. Does that mean they were also quarantined, or were they positive? All that other stuff.
I got tested for the coronavirus yesterday, and it came back positive. Update everybody, I'm good. I've been recovered for over 7 days.
Okay, so recovering for 7 days. So on the 6th day, he got it tested and came back positive, and I didn't take him down. And of course, we're talking about, and here's where it's bad. So many things to go by. All right, now this is just a demographic of celebrities, public figures, sports athletes. Basically, every one of these people have millions of dollars that they have access to. I mean, it's just the comparison between how much money they make and how much money they have, and compared to how much money I have, which is almost nothing. Their survival rate should be a lot higher than the general population, and but it's actually worse. I mean, of the demographic of these, their survival rate should be a lot better, because if they've probably got the best healthcare system working for them. They have enough money to fly wherever they want to be treated, whatever. But ordinary people out in the general population, where the death percentage is a lot lower, they just kind of survive better. I guess money doesn't make a difference. Anyways, that's one aspect. I'll go to another aspect after this. This will take a lot longer than I thought it would. And okay, here we go.
Coronavirus.
Anyways, he's just saying, I do have the coronavirus. Looks fine to me. This guy even says, feel fine, things are going well. Isn't that funny? They go, you guys are going to need a vaccine. You guys need to practice social distancing. And I go, so how was it like with COVID-19, being infected by it? Oh, it was fine. I feel fine. I'm good, It wasn't bad. Anyways. How many? Okay, flathead politics, sorry. Right now, of course, I have 75, not counting the first row, sorry. So 76, so a total of 75. I should probably have total. All right, let's keep going.
Things are going well. Just taking the proper precautions.
Your hands frequently.
So Rudy Gobert, just wash your hands frequently. You'll be all right. You'll get through the COVID-19. I think we might almost be done. A minute and a half, almost 2 minutes. I had it. I feeling much better. Feeling better each day. Don't be afraid. Basically, if you're over 45, maybe worry. If you're under 45, you should be fine. Actually, 54 might be the number. And that's the thing. It's like, why don't we just have the people who are over the age of 54, where they should be pretty much close to retirement and they should stop working anyways? They should not go to work, because they should stay home and not. And of course, they have those who died with complications with COVID-19. And I also took all of these into account as well, the ones that didn't have it. And so they'll have the whole why they had COVID-19. You can't verify that. Or they might even put suspected of dying with COVID-19 or complications of COVID-19, whatever. Maybe they're just dying before. Of course, if you go to a lot of videos of people who are uploading, and even tweets going, hey, my family member passed away, and we couldn't see them when they went to the hospital. We can't see them for their funeral. We can't set anything up because they're saying that he died of COVID-19. It's like, he didn't go in the hospital because he was sick with the cold or flu or COVID-19. This person had this, like a heart failure or whatever, or was totally fine, and all of a sudden they're gone. It's just a little weird. But yeah, okay, so even in this demographic where you got basically millionaires, or 100 millionaires, 100 millionaires, I don't know, almost billionaires, high millionaires. Their average death is age 72, and you should be fully retired by the time you're age 72. You shouldn't be going to work anyway. And what they should be doing is sending people who are at the age of 72, they shouldn't be going to work. Everyone else, yeah, you guys are going to be fine. If you're sick, you shouldn't be at work anyway. Minimum age death is 52. That was, they say, confirmed. Okay, so maybe take a safe measure. If you're 52 and older, stay home, work from home, whatever. Everyone else, you'll be fine until we get these cases where a majority of people are dying at a certain age range. And of course, you're not going to find all these types of statistics available over in CDC or Johns Hopkins University or whatever. And anyways, I'm going to go ahead and look at the chat, and then I'm going to switch over to my main topic, and I'm sorry for the 23-minute delay. 75. Well, no. Out of 75, 53 survived. 21 of them died. So this is the survival percentage, death percentage. But I took the age into consideration. But so basically, no one younger who was a celebrity, public figure, sports athlete who's under 52 died. The average age was 72, and of course, there's a lot of there's at least 3 that they said they had other conditions that they had. None of the others mentioned that. Isaac Robertson was that weird. They had unknown cause. Their family suspects it. Isaac Robertson never had a test. So why are they writing an article that he probably died from COVID-19? So, anyways, that's all that I wanted to share. Tiger Doug, nice to see that the WWE is the last man standing in the world of pro sports. WrestleMania 36 took place last weekend, performed in an empty stadium. Anyways, all right, so that is that. I'm going to switch back. I was on page 9, at least on the PDF, probably page 8 in the actual Tao of Jeet Kune book. Now, I think I was on the last one, and I'm going to go ahead and hide myself so you can still hear me at least, but read the last line. Establish nothing in regard to oneself. Pass quickly like the non-existent and be quiet as purity. Those who gain lose. Do not precede others, always follow them. And again, these are one of the ones where it doesn't, I can't focus on the meaning yet, so I'm going to pass it and just move on to the next one, and we'll go with that one. All right. So let's bring it back here. Do not run away, let go. Do not seek, for it will come when least expected. And I think it's you could, again, this whole thing is about kind of applying it in a wide range of ways, not just in martial arts. Think about it when you're trying to remember something and you can't. It could be something trivial. It's like, who was that actor or actress in that movie, and you can't remember that movie, and it's just like a trivia thing, right? You know it, you've seen it many times. It's like, how could you not remember? And the harder you think about it, the more it won't surface to your mind, and all of a sudden you stop thinking about it. 10-15 minutes later, it's like, I know the answer. I think that's what it's kind of like. As far as that one, the next one: give up thinking as though not giving it up. Observe techniques as though not observing. I think it's people focus on thinking, visualizing the motions to it before they go through the motions, and that's good for practice. But when it's actually done, it's never the way that you practiced. Whether it's sports, whether it's music or anything else, what you practice for a lot of things, and that's good because you get the motions of what needs to be done, techniques and whatnot. But whenever you seem to apply it, it always adapts and it changes. Your adrenaline is running a lot more when you're actually doing it live for real rather than in practice. You've got a lot of distractions. You've got people watching you when you're not really. It may affect you in some ways, and it's you almost have to kind of blot them out in some ways, not think about it. So that's kind of how I see it. Is for people who are really shy about talking to a group of people who just stare at them. Imagine if you're doing a comedy routine, stand-up comedy routine. You can practice in front of your family members. That's a little different. And then you get out there and there's like a crowd of 100 people just staring at you, quiet, and with noises of waitresses and waiters bringing people drinks and food. You're kind of almost not ready for that. And the whole point as far as martial arts, the technique, the punch, people can show you how a punch looks, how maybe your shoulder is supposed to move, your arm is supposed to move, your fist is supposed to be clenched, and your hip is supposed to be in position in a certain way, and your legs as well. All of that in a real fight, all that kind of goes out the window. The real point of that punch is to actually do whatever that punch is intended to your opponent, and you don't worry about the technique, the visuals, how it looks and whatever. It's all about the purpose of that punch and things like that. There's no fixed teaching. All I can provide is an appropriate medicine for a particular ailment. Yeah, I think that's also good. It's tough, and I think that's why I like Bruce Lee's philosophy on martial arts and just things in general. I mean, he just applied Eastern philosophy of what worked and used it within his search for finding the multiple martial arts and techniques to fit what works for him. And I mean, the idea that there is no fixed teaching is also good, right? I think it's interesting when you find a lot of spiritual leaders, teachers, and stuff like that, where like Jesus Christ, even Pythagoras, and a whole bunch of others. I think Moses, Buddha, they never wrote anything down to pass along. I mean, they taught others, but they never wrote anything down in like some permanent form. And I think, hey, no problems. Have a good night, Tiger Dog. See you, Flathead Politics, Greg. So it's funny because if you've even taught martial arts, or you've been taught martial arts, and I'm sorry I'm focusing on martial arts here, it could be anything. No teacher, no student that you've learned from or taught from taught the same way with the same things to each individual all the time. There's always some flexibility. There's always some other way to learn from a master or to teach to a student. What works for them didn't work for someone else, you know. So it's good that there's the idea that there's no fixed teaching. Otherwise, we would that one thing that was taught would be taught to everyone and it would always work for everyone. There's no reason to stray away from that. We don't see that happen. All right. Buddhism's Eightfold Path, the 8 requirements to eliminate suffering by correcting false values and giving true knowledge of life's meaning have been summed up as follows. 1. Right views, understanding. You must clearly see what is wrong. That's pretty good. Right purpose, aspiration. Decide to be cured. So once you figure out what's wrong, you know what to do to fix it. So you decide you're going to fix it. Right speech is number 3. Speak so as to aim at being cured. So you know what the problem is, and you know what you need to do to fix it, and you want to go ahead and state to people that it's so. You don't want to lie. What's the purpose of lying? 4. Right conduct. You must act. So go ahead. So you know what you learned everything you need. You know you want to change. You also need to act upon it. You know, it's almost very similar right there. The first 4 points, just probably more. This is Buddhist Eightfold Path. Very similar already to Western philosophy as applied to Stoicism. Number 5, right vocation. Your livelihood must not conflict with your therapy. So basically, if you're living a life that conflicts with what it takes to be cured, well, don't live that life, right? If you realize that you have psychological trauma because you're killing people, well, don't stay in a profession where you're just constantly killing people. Duh, right? Number 6, right effort. The therapy must go forward at the staying speed, the critical velocity that can be sustained. Another example of number 5, and it might go with number 6, is like you want to quit smoking. You realize it's not healthy for you. Last thing you should be doing is working in a profession where you're working, say, at a casino where they still allow people to smoke cigarettes. You're not going to really. It won't be easy to quit. Plus, you're going to be it's not going to help you get rid of what ails you. Plus, you also want to make sure that it's constant. You don't want to go and say, "Oh, I smoke so much. Instead of 6 packs a day, I'll just do like 3 packs a day, and then the next day go 4 packs a day, and the next day after that maybe go down to 2 packs a day, and day after 5 packs a day." It's like, and all you're thinking about is like, hey, at least it's not 6 packs a day I'm smoking anymore. Well, it's right there. It's just not consistent. So you want to put the right effort and pick a declining level and keep at it. 7, right awareness, mind control. You must feel it and think about it incessantly. Don't get your mind controlled by someone else. Control your own, and just don't let things that are outside of that affect you. You should only what affects you should be just what you do. Right concentration is number 8. Meditation. Learn how to contemplate with a deep mind. So that's also a lot of, basically, in short, it's about getting rid of distractions. That's as simple as it is. Get rid of distractions. Focus on what you're doing. Focus on what you're trying to achieve, and let that handle itself. And you're gonna realize, hey, it's a lot easier than I thought. So there's that. Art of the soul. The aim of art is to project an inner vision into the world, to state in aesthetic creation the deepest psychic and personal experiences of a human being. is to enable those experiences to be intelligible and generally recognized within the total framework of an ideal world. If you talk about art to anyone, it's always about expression, right? What is it trying to express? What is this art trying to relate and express to first the artist, and then those that the artist wants to share to the world? It's different than a science. A science isn't really about expression. It's about how science isn't something that you want to express out to the world. Science would be if you're going to have a kind of a dualistic approach with art and science. Science is about having the world, experiencing the world, and how it's expressed to those who experience it. And art might be the opposite approach, you could say. Get rid of Zoom meeting here. Okay, art reveals itself in psychic understanding of the inner essence of things and gives form to the relation of man with nothing, with the nature of the absolute. So, I think it's more of excuse me. It's you could think of it as an alchemical change in a way. It's a piece of art, when you create it and you're imagining it, it's something that comes from within. It's something else might give you influence, but a lot of it is just something that's provides senses to you and stripped away from all the distractions and the needless material. Is like, what is it that it is? It's no longer nothing. It's no longer something that was formless. Now it's something that's formed. So what's the nature of it? What does it provide? And I think that's the greatest thing about art, martial arts, is that it's not a science. They don't call it martial science. They call it martial art. It's the revelation of the person who's studying it. What is it that it's trying to reveal to you? And a lot of it is about fighting, but it's not necessarily just fighting. Fighting, you can be a great fighter and not have any martial arts training at all. But you can't be a great martial artist by just fighting. So think of it that way. You can kind of apply the same thing to a lot of different types of careers, I guess. Things like that. Art is an expression of life and transcends both time and space. We must employ our own souls through art to give a new form and a new meaning to nature of the world. Or the world. To nature or the world, yeah. That's good. I won't go too much into that one. An artist's expression is a soul made apparent, schooling as well as his cool being exhibited. Behind every motion, the music of his soul is made visible. Otherwise, his motion is empty, and empty motion is like an empty word, no meaning. I think that's more of the artistic side, which I'm not more on the artistic side. Creative, yes. How that transcends to art is a little bit different, but yeah, I like to think that my creativeness, there is a aspect of the creativeness that is fundamentally me. That's specifically me. Like, I don't want to find someone else's creativeness and tack it on as my own. I want to be so creative and original that people see it and they go, wow, how could he have thought of something like that or react to something like that in that way, where it's like, I could never do that. Except I could probably tell you could always do that. You have that ability. That artistic expression, the artistic creativity can can be learned just as much as taught, and it can be formed just as much as it's not formed for others. Like, it had to come from somewhere, and that somewhere is gonna be, if not you, something that resounds within you. So find meaning behind it. Don't just be empty as far as what you're trying to express. Just don't go through the motions. I guess that's the best way to put it. Sorry, forgot I didn't need to hide myself. All right, eliminate not clear thinking and function from your root. Yeah. I think the best thing to a lot of helpful measures of when things are, you're trying to calm your mind, trying to be clear, is I guess it's kind of almost a form of meditation, right? You want to get rid of distractions. What is it that you need, like when you're a baby and you're just bored? First thing you need to do is breathe. Cry if you need to. You need to inhale all that air, get all that stuff out, get all the things in your body that's not clean out, whether that's urine, poop, or mucus, whatever. All that helps your body to breathe. And then, so that's kind of the main thing that you focus on, meditation, right? You want to get rid of distractions. What did you need? And when you were born, you weren't really thinking of anything. Who knows? Maybe you are, but you're just focused on breathing. And once you got that down, you realize, okay, what else does your body need? Do I need to go urinate? Do I need to go poop? Do I need to cough, sneeze, whatever? Get it out of your system. Do that. So, am I thirsty? Do I need water? It's like, because if you don't realize that you need water, even though you do need water, well, you're not going to concentrate. You're not going to be clear of thinking, because you're going to be like, well, yeah, I guess I do need to pee. So, or drink. So you drink. And food and all that other stuff. Are you comfortable? All that stuff. And focus back on what you need to focus on. That's the point of meditation. Meditation isn't about breathing. A lot of people, when they go through yoga or whatever, they go, meditation is just breathing. No. Meditation is about the focus of what you want to express, and get it out there. Get it, show it to the world. Have the world get something where they otherwise did not have. And you need some great focus, meditation, whatever it is, to get to that point. And breathing and all that other jazz is just to help you get to that point, so you can get rid of those distractions. Art is never decoration, embellishment. Instead, it is work of enlightenment. Art, in other words, is a technique for acquiring liberty, freedom, in other words. Yeah, and we've taken it the other way, right? People wear things and they use it as, they want to look artistic. What's the point of looking artistic if you're not creating any actual art? You're just looking like you're creating art. It's just like people who do a lot of martial arts motions, karate motions, whatever. That's that style point. It's like, what's the point of all that when you can't really use it effectively, type of thing. You're not doing a service to it. You're just making it look a certain way. But it really has no real merit. It doesn't have any, I guess, gravitas. I'm trying to think of a better word for it, but it's not coming to me. It's like eating food. You want to feel satiated, right? You don't want to just eat a whole bunch of sugars, cake and candy and stuff like that. That's not really going to satiate yourself and make your body feel fulfilled from hunger. Same thing. So it's never just a collection of the material over yourself. You don't want to keep adding clay to the statue. You just want to whittle away the essentials, type of thing. Same thing with the quote of the day. Art calls for complete mastery of techniques developed by reflection within the soul. Yeah. I may have a different opinion on this one, but still, I think you can have like a mastery of one technique, and that's just enough for most. And but it's basically what is reflected within yourself, your inner self that you're trying to express and get it out there, and not necessarily to show the world. That's just a bonus. It's just so the world has it, and that people can use it, and it can be useful for them, hopeful for them. But in that they also can see where you're coming from and what it is, that you also want them to also do the same. I was watching Aeon Byte today. There's a new one. This guest, can't remember her name, but it talks about working with your archetypes and your inner meaning. Charges $200 per session, which is about a half-hour session, to work on your spiritual inner self. Writes books, and I see that all the time now, unfortunately, with Aeon Byte. And what you're paying for is something that you can get for free. People go, well, you get what you pay for. Well, you paid for a bunch of junk, because all of that is pretty much free. It's just a bunch of built up stuff to make it look good, but the beauty is in its simplicity, you could say. Artless art is the artistic process within the artist. Its meaning is art of the soul. All the various moves of all the tools means a step on the way to the absolute aesthetic world of the soul. And I think a lot of this is just pretty much almost the same thing. Is just creativeness, expression of yourself, and various ways you could think about it, different ways, even if it's minute and slightly different. Let's see. Yeah, I want to skip till I find some things. Let's see. I kind of like that one. All vague notions must fall before a pupil can call himself a master. Yeah, and again, it's a lot easier applying martial arts because it's one specific thing. Like, so Tao Jeet Kune, the way of the intercepting fish, right? Imagine if I created the Tao of the, I don't know, fishing, right? Fishing for trout type of, that would be like the kind of like a philosophical way of catching fish. And if I just caught fish in like trout, stocked rainbow trout in a small pond with one pole, one fishing rod with a spinning reel, and it was just a floating Carolina rig type of thing. I wouldn't call myself a master, of catching trout just because I'm good at that. I want to extend it. It's like, okay, excuse me. Can I catch trout with a casting rod? Can I, casting reel with a bobber and a floater? Can I do it with a what's that? Not just a fly rod, but also a I use it all the time. Anyway, it's very similar to a fly fishing rod. Basically, other types of ways of fishing. Either can you do it on a kayak? Can you do it on real live bait, fake bait? Lures, spinners, all this other stuff, and then take it to the next level with flies, fake flies, artificial flies. Can I take it to the next level? Can I do it with spear fishing? Can I do it with bows and arrows? Can I dive underwater and catch the fish that way, spearing the fish? Can I go to different types of waters, like rivers, streams, lakes, big huge lakes? Can I do the same if they go out somehow to like an estuary, or maybe even to the ocean where certain types of trout, maybe not rainbow trout, but you know what I mean, all these different types of and can you do it through the ice with ice fishing? Can you do it on the hottest of days when they're not biting, or there might not even be any there? You don't know. Once you kind of go through all that, it's yourself where you understand that, yeah, okay, I can call myself a master. I've kind of caught fish all these different ways, and someone asked me, can I catch the rainbow trout like this? And you go, yeah, you can. Here's kind of an example, and you show them. So me, I would say, yeah, I would not be called a master at catching trout in any condition with any technique and all that stuff. But, I will say I'm very skilled at certain techniques to catch trout in different types of waters with what I've got. But, would that make me a master in other people's eyes? I guess yes. But for me, that idea of being a master would not be the same, right? So, again, someone else can call you a master. That does not necessarily make you a master. You can say that you're a master, even though you do not think or feel that you are a master, type of thing. You just don't want to be fooled. You don't want to lie to yourself. Here we go. Art is the way to be absolute and to the essence of human life. The aim of art is not the one-sided promotion of spirit, soul, and senses, but the opening of all human capacities, thought, feeling, will, to the life rhythm of the world of nature. So will the voiceless voice be heard and the self be brought into harmony with it. It's not something you want to keep to yourself. It's something that once you've realized you've created art, something beautiful, something that the world deserves and should have, you don't want to hide it. You don't want to give it to the highest bidder. You want to share it to the world, because you realize that this is something that everyone should see, feel, and think about. And it's right, it's too beautiful to hide or blemish and keep under covers, whatever. It's these days, what counts as art is how much does it cost? How much money will people pay for it? There's no beauty in that. I think they're not creating it for themselves, for the beauty, for the expression of it, for the world to appreciate. Things are a lot different now than I guess they were then, as far as art is considered. And let's see, I just want to see how much. Okay, yeah, there's still more. Of course, I'm going to skip to the end once it starts getting into specific techniques and things like that, but martial arts techniques. There's plenty of people going over that aspect and not the philosophical aspect of Bruce Lee's martial arts philosophy, at least with his way. Okay. Artistic skill, therefore, does not mean artistic perfection. It means rather a continuing medium or reflection of some step in psychic development, the perfection of which is not to be found in shape and form, but must radiate from the human soul. Yeah, I mean, artistic perfection. I don't even know how I can even get to expressing that, so I can skip that. But yeah, I mean, it's all a path. Everyone wants to be perfect, right? They want to have the perfect outcome. like they want to have a perfect game. But what is that perfect game? Never missing a shot, scoring 100 points in a game. Like I'm talking basketball, or like scoring a 10 for 10 on some dance contest, right? Or slam dunk contest, whatever it is. The artists themselves will understand that perfection, that artistic perfection, isn't based on what others would express. You'll know when you reach that artistic perfection. It's like you think about it, it's like that whole display that you performed, that whole performance I guess you had, you can reflect on it and go, there's nothing I could have done to have perfected what I just did, type of thing. And therefore, those are some magic moments, I guess you could say. And people who witness it, they'll probably see it too. The artistic activity does not lie in art itself as such. It penetrates into a deeper world in which all art forms of things inwardly experienced flow together, and in which the harmony of soul and cosmos and the nothing has its outcome in reality. I sometimes feel that this is more in tune with martial arts than much of other type of art, and but yeah, I do think it is something that is weaved together with any other type of expression, artistic expression. It's just a way to. I wonder if it's just kind of like a way, the Tao, to get to that point of just tuning yourself into this. Think of Star Wars with the Force and things like that, or any other type of thing that seems there's like a connection to everything. Excuse me. It's just tapping into that, and it's. Sometimes people can even say when they're performing, they go into a zone. All of it just, it's not focused on anything outside. It's just focused on what it is. And they're not necessarily thinking about anything. They're just reacting to it. They just see themselves performing it, and it's being performed the way they see it. And it's just all connected into just one seamless motion. It's like time just doesn't seem like it's the same. Like some may see that things seem to slow down or speed up, and but they're able to be in control of that situation, and it's just one of those weird things, difficult to express in words. It is the artistic process, therefore that is reality, and reality is truth. So maybe the way to do that is, again, tapping into the thing that people mostly take for granted, and a lot of that focus seems to be this curriculum, right? With education. Anyways, the path of truth. This is a good one. Number 1, seeking after truth. Yeah, you're never gonna find truth if you don't go looking for it. No one's just gonna give you the truth, and if someone does say something, you're gonna have to go, well, is this person speaking the truth? If I find this person is speaking the truth, or has this person lied much? If this person has lied before, most likely he might be lying about this. So therefore, you're seeking after the truth by seeing if the person speaking something is speaking the truth, whether based upon whether they spoke truth in the past or haven't spoke truth in the past more accurately. Therefore, if they have, then you go investigate more. So is this the time that this person is finally not speaking the truth? And then you go and you look and you say, okay, maybe this person still is speaking the truth, but you have to seek it, right? Number 2, awareness of truth and its existence. And then once you go seeking after the truth, you find a lot of lies, falsities, things like that, and being misled by others, and being ridiculed, or told you're something you know you're not, whether you're dangerous or whatever. And it's like, well, the truth is out there. It doesn't matter what you think of me. I'm looking for the truth, and I know it exists because that experience of it. And of course, if it's not true, then of course logically, you could say that in its absence there should be something to replace it, or if any of that type of stuff. Number 3, perception of truth. Its substance and direction, like the perception of movement. Like it should be, whether you're looking for something objective, some form of objective truth that applies to anyone and everyone type of thing, whether it's just perceived by you or someone else. It's something that can be easily rationalized, I guess you could say. It's that could be a difficult one. 4, understanding of truth. A first-rate philosopher practices it to understand it, Tao, not to be fragmented, but to see the totality, which is Krishnamurti. I would say it's think of it as going to a location on a map. On the map, it says you can get to it going one direction, this certain direction. And then you go on that direction and you find that that road that leads to there is closed. It's no longer there. You can't get to that anymore. And you understand that, well, things change. Directions change. That's why they always update maps. So you get a new map and you realize, okay, this map is more up to date, and but still you can't get to the location based on that direction that you see on the map, and you go on these different detours and stuff like that, or you realize you could just gone another way, and that's fine, or maybe a longer way, even though it's more like a scenic route type of thing. You just have to keep going and experiencing it and see what the how the truth is affects how what is perceived as the truth is actually affecting those who are seeking it, and what effect it has, and what the actuality is, and whether that actuality actually makes a difference. If it doesn't make a difference, then that whole thing, what difference does it make? It would be someone asking directions. It's like, hey, how do you get to that town? It's like, well, you want to do this, or you could do this, or you could do that. Well, the map here is telling me it's just go through here. But whenever I try to go through there, there's the blockade, and it's like, well, first off, what's the point of asking me how to get there if you already know you can't get there with the direction that you already know, right? So that's kind of funny in some ways when you talk to a lot of people who are seeking the truth and all this other stuff. It's like, look, you already know that what you seek is not attainable in that particular direction. And so you ask me about how to get there, and I tell you, and you go, well, I should have gotten there this way. It's like, why even bother asking me again? And they go, oh yeah, like we just kind of have to get people to understand it a little bit better. It's like, do you really know what you're asking? Why did you ask in the first place? Well, let's just slow down a little bit. Now, you could told me first off the bat that you're trying to get to that destination is blockaded, and they go, can I get there a different way? That would have been a lot more useful to do. Wasted, no longer any wasted steps and things like that. So, anyways, that can probably be part of 5, experiencing the truth. 6, mastering the truth. 7, forgetting truth. 8, forgetting the carry of truth. 9, return to the primal source where truth has its roots in. 10, repose in nothing. So A lot of it is just, it's almost, if you think of it in art, in the way art is expressed, could you imagine someone someone we all kind of, everyone, I think of the 4 Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Michelangelo, Donatello, Raphael, and why do I always forget the other? You know what I'm talking about. Anyways, let's just say, could any of those artists reproduce their masterpieces exactly if they were to create a replica of it? Exactly, every stroke, every brush, every little detail, everything, just exact clone of it. You couldn't tell any differences otherwise. I would say no. I think and it's like having that perfect game. You can't seem to have that go in that same zone all the time, be perfect in everything. It just seems to come and go. And but it'll eventually come back. You'll create something new, a new masterpiece, something that's very unique expression that's let out. Because to replicate something that's already expressed is just, most of the time your heart's not into it. Your willpower, your want to do that is just, it's done. It's gone. It's like, wow. I mean, I already did it. Why do I want to do it again and again and again and again? You've done it, maybe even in practice. Like, you practiced it and it's perfected, and you go, I can't even get better at it. It's just, you just know you can't perfect it. That's just, you've reached kind of your limit. Now you want to move on to something else. So it's just something that's, I don't know, maybe that's the spirit of, maybe that's just, I was gonna say like the spirit of human nature. Maybe that's just the spirit, right? Something with that, it's when it's out there, it's out there. You don't need to do anything about it anymore. It's out. You could forget about it. It's like, hey, got it, done. No need to relive that past, right? It's nice to remember, but don't need to. Anyways, more about expression of Jeet Kune. I think, let's see, I do want to kind of go over this, but I wasn't expecting it. Okay, I think this applies to a lot of different things, not just to Jeet Kune as kind of a martial art. It's more of a philosophical way of achieving something that you're wanting to achieve. Hello, Zython. Oh, sure. So Zython, if you want to come on in, you're on YouTube. So in YouTube, in the description box, there's a Zoom meeting link. You could go on that, or you can call in. So let me know if you're able to do that. So a lot of this right now is just going over the philosophy of Jeet Kune, as Bruce Lee wrote in the Tao of Jeet Kune. All right, so I'll continue. Just let me know if you're able to get in. For security, the unlimited living is turned into something dead, a chosen pattern that limits. To understand Jeet Kune, one ought to throw away all ideals, patterns, styles. In fact, he should throw away even the concept of what is or isn't ideal in Jeet Kune. Can you look at a situation without naming it? Naming it, making it a word, causes fear. Awesome. He had away with the words, didn't he? It is indeed difficult to see the situation simply. Our minds are very complex, and it is easy to teach one to be skillful, but it is difficult to teach him his own attitude. Jeet Kune favors formlessness so that it can assume all forms, and since Jeet Kune has no style, it can fit with all styles. As a result, Jeet Kune utilizes all ways and is bound by none, and likewise uses any technique or means which serve its end. You know, Bruce Lee talks about water a lot, and you know, water can assume any form where it's that it's carried in this cup. Assumes the form of this cup. If I had a bowl, it would assume the full form of that bowl. So, think of as each of those shapes that water resides in as a arena of some sort, and you know, that arena, whether it's boxing, wrestling, whatever, and assume a form that fits into that arena, and that's gonna help you not be conflicted in that arena, not to be stagnant. I guess it would be like trying to fit a square cube into a ball, a hole shaped like a ball. You know, it's gonna be tough to fit in. It's like, you know, you could form the shape of that square if you want to, but first you're gonna have to unform yourself, get into that cube, get into that ball, and then once you're there, you can form yourself again. But then again, you're probably not going to move around so well inside that ball shape as a cube. So what's the point? Find something that's easier to navigate through. You know, so many different ways you could think about that. It would be whether it's technology, art, science, whatever. You want to kind of never go really against that grain. You know, you want to find where the grain's going and go with it. Don't really always do the hard approach, right? All right, so approach Jeet Kune with the idea of mastering the will. Forget about winning and losing. Forget about pride and pain. Let your opponent graze your skin and you smash into his flesh. Let him smash into your flesh and you fracture his bones. Let him fracture your opponents and you take his life. Do not be concerned with your escaping safely and lay your life before him. Yeah, just it's almost as, you know, it's like running a race. You're not really racing. I want to make sure. Okay, sorry. Here we go. Usually I have a beep, but I didn't set it up. Anyway, Christopher Lee, welcome. You may need to set up your audio. If you have a mic, on the bottom left, you can see on the screen. Of course, it's going to take a little while for you to see it on YouTube. There's a mute icon on your bottom left, and there's an arrow up. And from there, you can select your microphone. You want to make sure you select your microphone that works. Usually, same as system is what works, and just make sure your mic works there. Okay, looks like you're connecting to audio. Good.
Can you hear me?
Yep, I hear you.
So what the fuck are you doing?
What do you mean?
What the fuck is this?
I was just talking. I guess you're lying in chat, huh?
Yeah, I know Bruce Lee is a person. He has a small ass dick.
Okay. Well, it's fun to have you for a while, but I guess have a good day. Yeah. All right. Anyways, kind of had an idea that was going to happen. Great mistake is to anticipate the outcome of the engagement. And of course, like I didn't anticipate that outcome of that engagement. Of course, I won. And it wasn't really about winning. Person has no control over anything that I do. You ought not to be thinking of whether it ends in victory or defeat. Let nature take its course and your tools will strike at the right moment. Yeah, so that was that. That was easy to deal with. Wasn't looking to win or whatever. Took a chance and that happened. Like, he could have done a little bit better, actually. Of all the things he could have said, to reach I guess a emotional outburst. Maybe talking about someone's mother might have been a little bit more aggravating. Don't you talk about my mom like that? All right. Jeet Kune teaches us not to look backward once the course is decided upon. It treats life and death indifferently. Yeah, it's almost like, look, I did what I did. I think if I reflected on it, I could have done things better. But it happened. I'm sorry I didn't make the best decision, type of thing. If that's you really don't want to lose out on that bridge of connection to someone else, and therefore you can that's how you just move on with it. You just flow with what the behavior you just did, and that's that. You either change or you don't change, or you apologize or you don't apologize, right? It's indifferent upon just how the world works and moves on. But you're not here to change the world with how you do things or how you've done things, right? The world didn't change because of what you did. And the world will change based upon what you do and you keep doing. And the world itself goes on no matter what. So does it really matter what you do or you don't do? Well, what's the point of living? Is the point of living to change yourself, maybe, because that is something you can change, or change the world, which seems like you cannot do? And you can't even change the people that you really love or are close to you. You can attempt to. You can't force that change. You can most likely express to them something about what they do that might give them a indication of whether they want to change or not, and that would influence their ability and their behaviors, type of thing, right? Jeet Kune avoids the superficial, penetrates the complex, goes to the heart of the problem, and pinpoints the key factors. And I think that's really important. Like, who cares about, for example, whoever that came on? Like, that was like the most superficial thing you could do, and nobody cares about it. And just look at the aspect. Could have gone on to someone who's streaming with 50 people, 100 people, 1,000 people, more wow factor, right? It's like, hey, look at this guy. He made it onto Good Morning America on their live stream. Or look at this. He got onto NASA and said that joke to the astronauts. And, it's like millions of people were watching it. It's like, oh, that's that dude, right? I remember that dude. They're like, who would ever remember you from where like 3 people are watching a live stream where the stream goes on for about 2 to 3 hours, and not everyone who does watch it even watches the whole thing. So you're just like a little blip. It's something very superficial for your time, and the time that you spent to try to get in and all that, it's just very much a waste. But thank you. That kind of helps me with my presentation. Okay, so rather than basically you want to avoid all that superficial stuff. Go for something that's complex, that's like the meat of the matter type of thing, goes to the heart of the problem, and do something meaningful with it. Like, if you want to go and go to, say, Jordan Peterson's live stream, and he lets you on and you get to say something, you could do like a joke like that, and it's like very superficial. Or you could do like mega, with like the Trump thing, or ask him a really question that you really wanted to have. It's like, how often will you have a chance to speak with someone like that and ask them a question, have them answer back? So, don't waste your opportunities, basically what that means. Make every opportunity count. Jeet Kune does not beat around the bush. It does not take winding detours. It follows a straight line to the objective. Simplicity is the shortest distance between 2 points. And yeah, I like that. There's no reason to sugarcoat anything. You could take winding detours, I guess, if the objective is to actually have, like, say, there's a different objective than just getting to the destination. And you can take the fastest path if your point objective is just to get to the other side. And this person is past. Okay, so basically, I'll just let him in the waiting room. And let's see. Get rid of that. And there you go. Wasted time. And he could be trying to get someone bigger. Alright, so here we go. Jeet Kune. The art of Jeet Kune is simply to simplify. It is being oneself. It is reality in its isness. Thus, isness is the meaning, having freedom in its primary sense, not limited by attachments, confinements, partialization, complexities. Alright, I may have to change this. Oh, there's a lot of them. Lock reading, yes. There you go. That should do it. And there we go. I have to close my zoom so you can see it. Jeet Kune is the enlightenment. It is a way of life, a movement toward willpower and control, though it ought to be enlightened by intuition. And it is, I mean, you want to be able to not just talk the talk, but walk the walk. But you also have to make it a constant thing that you're doing, and not just be, okay, it's 1 p.m. and I've got 1 hour to do this, and I'll do my Jeet Kune training in that hour, and then after that, I just go back to doing what I normally do, which is sit on a couch and watch TV and eat potato chips. So you want to just make it a part of your life, because it's important for it to be a part of your life. And I think a lot of people, especially in these days, just see it as just, okay, I've got this little time frame in my day and this part of the week, and that's when I go ahead and I do that, rather than having it being a part of you, right? Yourself, the things that you do. It's for example, I'm a vegetarian, but I'll eat meat if I fish or hunt for it. Therefore, it's part of my life. It's not like I kind of go against it. And then when I think about it, it's like, so what is it? Why do I want to do that? It's more of a humane way of, I know how I'm killing it. I know, I try to respect it. I say my sorries to it, and hopefully that when I'm killing it, I'm not killing something else. I have more control over it. I know where it's from. I study a lot of different techniques. Sometimes I'll teach, especially my kids. There's something more to it than just the ingestion of it, seeing it in a store, following a recipe, all of that. It's just a part of my life now. Do you want to go eat fish? It's like, yeah. How about this pond, this fish, right? It's not like this store, this recipe, all that comes with the territory, but it's like, we don't know where that fish is from. It's like, why pay $15 for it at a store? I just go out, get a fishing pole, have an experience, enjoy nature, enjoy just the day, and things like that. While being trained, the student is to be active and dynamic in every way, but in actual combat, his mind must be calm and not at all disturbed. Yeah, distractions are always the case. You know, we kind of went over this before. It's just like comedians, stand-up comedians, they practice, but you know, once they actually go in front of a bunch of people and have to perform, you know, they can't focus on those distractions. They can't be like, oh my gosh, I can't remember any of my jokes, you know. And he must feel as if nothing critical is happening. When he advances, his steps must be light and secure, his eyes not fixed and glaring insanely at the enemy. His behavior should not be in any way different from his everyday behavior. No change taking place in his expression, nothing betraying the fact that he is engaged in mortal combat. Yeah, it's almost like playing poker. Like $2,000 is a lot to a lot of people. Hey, it's a lot to me. But I'll put $2,000 into a no limit high stakes or whatever stakes poker game. And to me, I don't treat it as money. I don't treat it as I lose a hand, I just lost $200 or I lost whatever. I just play the game to win the hand or a couple hands or lead up to a hand that'll give me more chips. But the idea is to be good at poker, not to worry about losing or gaining chips. So if you're going to be good at poker, most likely you're going to be winning chips, right? You don't want to be winning chips, but play badly at poker and end up losing those chips. You know, you're just focused on the wrong things. Focus on what needs to be done. You almost treat something extreme as just trivial, and because you're not focused on that. That's just another distraction that'll pretty much affect your performance. So don't let those distractions affect your performance. The tools, your natural weapons, have a double purpose. One, to destroy the opponent in front of you, annihilation of things that stand in the way of peace, justice, and humanity. Two, to destroy your own impulses caused by the instincts of self-preservation. To destroy anything bothering your mind. Not to hurt anyone, but to overcome your own greed, anger, and folly. Jeet Kune is directed toward oneself. Pretty good. Right, kind of the whole analogy before about how whether you're here to affect the world or the world's here to affect you, or you're here to affect yourself and the world affects its own self. But where they merge is based upon what you and your actions or the world's actions. You want it to be your actions, right? So I think this is good because it's applying that to yourself and not to anything else out there. Punches and kicks are tools to kill the ego. The tools represent the force of intuitive or instinctive directness, which, unlike the intellect or the complicated ego, does not divide itself, blocking its own freedom. Tools move on without looking back or to the side. Just look at each of those techniques or just as tools. Everything is just tools, but I like how he presents it. It's to kill the ego, kill your perception of what those punches or kicks are for. And don't make it overcomplicated. You know, these tools exist for the purpose that you have them for, not what someone else says that they're for. Like they go, hey, right hook is for this, they'll tell you. And you only want to use a hook when this happens. And it's like they'll probably have a good idea from their experience or from their what they're taught, you know, about that hook, when to apply it, what it's for, how it's applied. And then it's good to learn from those reasons, but don't you spend too much time thinking about when to apply the hook. Just put it into just your toolbox, and when you find it useful and what that hook applies for you, sometimes they'll say put your entire hip into it, swing wide, or you might want to swing just closer up. You know, maybe that person is 6'4" and has like a wingspan of like 6'8", instead you're short and compact. It's like you want to fight close up and not further away. Your hook might be a little bit closer in. It might be more of an uppercut type of hook. How you use that tool is just how you use that tool, and if it works for you, that's great. Don't get the ego involved at all. Don't say, hey, that hook looks good, I want to use it. It's not about how it looks. What's the purpose of the tool? All right. Because of the pure heartedness and empty-mindedness inherent in man, his tools partake of these qualities and play their role with the utmost degree of freedom. The tools stand as symbols of the invisible spirit, keeping the mind, body, and limbs in full activity. And you don't want to limit yourself to what you're able to do. And I think a lot of people teach limitedness, right? You're only limited with what you can. Here are your tools. This is what you can do with them, and just keep it at that. Like you could probably use other tools and do the same job, maybe even better. You could probably use those tools for other things than what they're intended for. Safety risk, of course, but that limitedness, you kind of expand that and figure out different ways of it being useful. And that's where you can actually become more like an engineer or like an architect of something, and build something new, different, and some would say complex, but maybe even more simple and better even. I know some people who make things by hand and solely by hand, which we don't have any. A lot of people don't do anymore, because a lot of these times things that are manufactured by machines and not by hand. And you'll just see the quality is just much better when it's by hand. And even though that cookie cutter approach applies to good quality, decent quality overall, but you don't have that person who is really skilled in their craft that really wants to perfect whatever it is that they spend their time and energy into. So and they're not going to use a lot of the same techniques as everyone else. They want the freedom to do what it takes to get that piece of engineering done, and whatever it takes, whether if it's unique and creative, or if it's just the same as something else, but they just spend more time and effort honing whatever edges and blemishes and imperfections there are, type of thing. I mean, you can easily get something that's bought for, made mechanically, and make your own finishing touches to it, and it's a lot different than something you would get, that's just store bought, right? Absence of stereotype technique, as the substance means to be total and free. All lines and movements are the function. And I think a lot of these, I think we're going to skip to the end because I know this can keep forever. But it's something that you can, I think what's useful for those who want to study philosophy, and you can use any philosophy. Imagine, heck, I think would be a good thing for most people to do is either go through the Jeet Kune Tao of the Jeet Kune Do and apply any of these lines into something maybe that you know more of. Whether if it is martial arts, try to find something secondary. If your main thing is martial arts, maybe you like woodcrafting. Apply it to woodcrafting. Maybe you like playing video games. Apply it to video games. Just find the philosophy of this that works and how it's similar, and eventually you're gonna see it cascades down, maybe up, wherever, to something else that you do. And you're going to find that whatever it is that you do when you apply these same philosophical ideas, it's like if it applies to something you know and you're good at, and it applies to something else again, and then use that same application of this philosophical idea to something else, that something else most likely is going to work too. And on the flip side, find something that's say Western philosophy, either from, you could use Plato, Aristotle, Socrates, Heraclitus, a bunch of Greek philosophers, or maybe even some contemporary philosophers from anywhere from the 1600s to the present, and maybe utilize those into martial arts. I mean, if you're reading a Tao Jeet Kune, you're probably into martial arts, but apply something that's not used for martial arts, a certain type of philosophy, and it resounds, resonates, whatever it is to you. Do that and make your own Tao of your own martial arts using philosophies that you use and you enjoy. And you're going to find that it's pretty cool, I think. And let's see. I mean, don't limit yourself to Bruce Lee did it, and that's good enough. We don't need to do any more to it. It's just perfect. It's like, maybe it's not. Maybe more could be simplified, you could say, or anything else. Anyways, we're gonna head on over to near the end, where I think it's kind of may have some more philosophical notes, but it's just kind of more of a concept that he wants people to understand. It's just a name. There's a powerful craving in most of us to see ourselves as instruments in the hands of others, and thus free ourselves from the responsibility for acts which are prompted by our own questionable inclinations and impulses. Both the strong and the weak grasp at this alibi. The latter hide their malevolence under the virtue of obedience. The strong to claim absolution by proclaiming themselves as chosen instruments of a higher power, God, history, fate, nation, or humanity. Similarly, we have more faith in what we imitate than in what we originate. We cannot derive a sense of absolute certitude from anything which has its roots in us. The most poignant sense of insecurity comes from standing alone, and we are not alone when we imitate. It is thus with most of us. We are what other people say we are. We know ourselves chiefly by hearsay. To become different from that, to become different from what we are, we must have some awareness of what we are. Whether this being different results in dissimulation or a real change of heart, it cannot be realized without self-awareness. Yet, it is remarkable that the very people who are most self-dissatisfied, who crave most for a new identity, have the least self-awareness. They have turned away from an unwanted self, and hence never had a good look at it. The result is that most dissatisfied people can neither dissimulate nor attain a real change of heart. They are transparent, and their unwanted qualities persist through all attempts at self-dramatization and self-transformation. It is the lack of self-awareness which renders us transparent. The soul that knows itself is opaque. I think great examples are the people who came in here. There's 5 people watching now, right? And want to disrupt something like that. Well, there's so few viewers, and it's such a waste of time for them. But they'll do it anyway. They'll call other people probably names, or they'll insult other people. The real insult is actually to themselves if they were self-aware, and most of the times they probably aren't. It's just like when people playing video games, and other video game examples, it's something that I am good at and I enjoy. It's like you kill them and you repeatedly kill them, and all you hear from them is, "You're such a noob." Why don't you use a real gun? Type of thing. And it's like, Well, first, you got killed by a noob. I mean, that's like, if you were more self-aware, you'd understand how that pretty much put you down. Another thing, why don't you use a real gun? It's like, well, if your gun isn't good enough to defeat me, then you might need the real gun, right? Again, none of that self-awareness going on when they're speaking things. So, yeah. First, be self-aware, and you might actually change to something, doing something more meaningful. All right. Fear comes from uncertainty. When we are absolutely certain whether of our worth or our worthlessness, we are almost impervious to fear. Thus, a feeling of utter unworthiness can be a source of courage. Everything seems possible when you're absolutely helpless or absolutely powerful, and both states stimulate our gullibility. And I think that's also a good thing. Look, despite whether, again, using these people as an example, one thing is you're not forced to listen to me, but you are listening to me. So that idea that you want to affect me in a certain way isn't going to happen. What happens is I'm affecting you in a certain way, trying to get you to become more self-aware and how to be better at certain things, or actually try to achieve something greater than what you're trying to achieve now and failing at. So it's kind of see how powerful that is, what I'm doing, and I'm not even trying to be powerful. It's just something that is occurring based on not having any fear of what it is that I'm doing, not having a care for what others think of whether I'm doing something worthwhile or not. I find it worthwhile, and I understand that other people who aren't doing this, whether or not they find it worthwhile or not, but mostly also a lot of people, excuse me, are kind of fearful of talking into the camera, talking at strangers, talking to people, talking to potential trolls, talking to getting certain ridicule from chat. I've seen it all. I've been there. I've talked to people who understand that. So fear comes from uncertainty, right? When you're pretty much certain, what's the most I can fear about doing these live streams, talking about what I want to talk? There really isn't. There's nothing to fear. Because what's the repercussions that anyone can have an effect on me? Because I don't let that effect do anything to me. But what I do has an effect on those who are trying to affect me. You see where I'm going at? So that's the beauty of having no fear. There's also a point of like, if I were doing this to someone like me, how would I impose fear on them? I would say, how would I create fear for myself if myself was someone else? I don't know. A surprise would be nice, I guess. I think that's also the point. It's like nothing can really surprise you if you don't really fear anything. That's because you've kind of thought through it. It's like, what's the worst something someone could do that would make me fearful, so it would prevent me from saying what I want and talking about a topic that I want. It's not like I have a job that someone could fire me from, so yeah, I'm not really afraid of that. Anything else requires force. I'm not really fearful of any force done upon me because I can retaliate in more force, unlimited force, really, because I'm not the one who started using the force upon someone else. So retaliation, I'm fine with. So it would seem that can't think of anything. Anyways, I'll keep going. Pride is a sense of worth derived from something that is not originally part of us, while self-esteem is derived from the potentialities and achievements of self. We are proud when we identify ourselves with an imaginary self, a leader, a holy cause, a collective body, or possessions. There is fear and intolerance in pride. It is sensitive and uncompromising. The less promise and potentiality in the self, the more imperative is the need for pride. The core of pride is self-rejection. It is true, however, that when pride releases energies and serves as spur to achievement, it can lead to reconciliation with the self and the attainment of genuine self-esteem. Yeah, I think it's like, I mean, I don't know. Sometimes I think of pride as, well, I always think about that because it's like I'm proud of my kids when they do something good and they think for themselves. But that pride isn't about because I taught them. You know, I might have self-pride that, hey, you know, maybe they got it right because of what I did. More proud of them for them able to do something which I might have had a hand in, but ultimately it was their decision or their ability to do it on their own for whatever reasons that they wanted to. And I'm like, you know, I'm proud of them. Can't really pride myself on it because I didn't do it. I guess pride is, you know, if it's a sense of worth, there's not, like, I would be more I take pride in what I do. Whatever I do it, like if I wash the dishes, I take pride in how clean they are. If I clean up the certain area, you know, I take pride in how clean it is. You know, if I take pride in like filleting the fish, I take pride in like how much of the fish I can get without wasting any, you know. That is more of something that's organically part of me. So, you know, that's something I'm okay with. But taking pride in something that I had nothing to do with, I think is what this thing is. And so I think I'm more towards that than most, unfortunately, other people are. So let's move to this last part. Secretiveness can be a source of pride. It is a paradox that secretiveness plays the same role as boasting. Both are engaged in the creation of a disguise. Boasting tries to create an imaginary self, while secretiveness gives us the exhilarating feeling of being princes disguised in meekness. Of the two, secretness is the more difficult and effective. For the self-observant, boasting breeds self-contempt. Yet it is as Spinoza said, men govern nothing with more difficulty than their tongues, and they can moderate their desires more than their words. Humility, however, is not verbal renunciation of pride, but the substitution of pride for self-awareness and objectivity. Forced humility is false pride. Yeah. What's the, like, being humble and having humility is, I guess it's, you can't force it. Yeah, otherwise you're just kind of, it's just a false pretense. You know, if you're forcing anything, forcing any of your behaviors, like say on a because someone, like say you're religious and so you're following the doctrine of that religion and you're forcing yourself to abide by that, well, you're not necessarily basing yourself on your own sense of what that specific thing is. You're basing off of some doctrine, and that's being forced upon you, whether you think it's so or not. Just because you think some higher power or something else, like mentioned above, says that you're supposed to do. But if that wasn't the case, would you still be doing that? Is the thing. If you no longer believed in that source, or that source came to your attention that You don't want to be anywhere associated with someone who follows those types of things, because it's associated with a lot of bad people or something. You're gonna be like, nah, I think I'll not do that anymore, even if they are very worthy ideals or concepts, like vegetarianism, like whatever's associated with an evil person. You're gonna say, oh, anything that person does is evil, but or bad. But they could be doing some good things, and just because they're doing good things and they're evil, you go, well, I'm not gonna do any of those good things because they're associated with an evil person, type of thing. But that's why you're being forced in your own weird awareness. It's like non-awareness, and thus it's not genuine, I guess. It's just a false sense of what you're doing is right or wrong, instead of the true sense what it is that you're doing is right, based upon just the justification of how it relates to the experience that others have with you, or you have yourself, regardless of anyone else. And you don't have to be forced into abiding by it or not, just because of all these dogmas, I guess you could say. A fateful process is set in motion when the individual is released to the freedom of his own impotence and left to justify his existence by his own efforts. The individual on his own, striving to realize himself and prove his worth, has created all that is great in literature, art, music, science, and technology. This autonomous individual also, when he can neither realize himself nor justify his existence by his own efforts, is a breeding ground of frustration and the seed of the convulsion that shakes our world to its foundations. And I think that's a lot of people are today. I mean, this is Bruce Lee back in probably the late 60s, mid to late 60s, right? And talks about the autonomous individual. And many people are just autonomous. And most of them is because they have low self-esteem, or are brainwashed, or are coerced by fear, or what's that term when you're in school? Peer pressure. Have peer pressure. Want to appear a certain way to others. When again, if everything is stripped away from them, how confident are they? Are they not confident? Where does their self-confidence stem from? Is that real, genuine, or is it a false confidence? And you'll see a lot of that, and most of this is basically attributed to the autonomous individual, because it is stable only so long as he is possessed of self-esteem. So most people don't have self-esteem. They don't think that they have great worth and things like that. And unfortunately, a lot of the kids these days were raised that way. And it's also part of the entire educational system, the social stigma system, how they're raised, a lot of factors. But the idea is not to blame others for the reason of why you are in the state that you are in, but to more. I think what most people don't realize is Bruce Lee was probably more of a stoic than you realize. Probably, I wonder what his thoughts would be about stoicism and things like that. But I think a lot of the influences, the philosophies, not religions, not the dogmas, but the philosophical ideas of, say, what may be constituted as religion these days. It's more about the individual process, and I think it's being responsible for your behavior regardless of what the situation dictates. That's how an emperor like Marcus Aurelius was more like a slave based upon his stoicism and how a slave, which I'm forgetting his name, had the power of an emperor because he was a slave, but what couldn't change, even with death and torture, was his ability to do what was necessary, do what was right, regardless of the outcome of what was going to be done to him. And I think that all starts with the self. The Stoic has their ideas of their approach and how to explain it in words, and I think Bruce Lee here has his own way of saying the same thing. We have to prove our worth and justify our existence anew each day. When for whatever reason self-esteem is unattainable, the autonomous individual becomes a highly explosive entity. He turns away from an unpromising self and plunges into the pursuit of pride, the explosive substitute of self-esteem. All social disturbances and upheavals have their roots in crisis of individual self-esteem, and the great endeavor in which the masses most readily unite is basically a search for pride. So we acquire a sense of worth either by realizing our talents, or by keeping busy, or by identifying ourselves as something apart from us, be it a cause, a leader, a group, possessions, or whatnot. The path of self-realization is the most difficult. It is taken only when other avenues to a sense of worth are more or less blocked. Men of talent have to be encouraged and goaded to engage in creative work. Their groans and laments echo through the ages. That's good. Action is a high road to self-confidence and esteem. Where it is open, all energies flow toward it. It comes readily to most people, and its rewards are tangible. The cultivation of the spirit is elusive and difficult, and the tendency toward it is rarely spontaneous, whereas the opportunities for actions are many. And the propensity to action is symptomatic of an inner imbalance. To be balanced is to be more or less at rest. Action is at the bottom, a swinging and flailing of the arms to regain one's balance and keep afloat. And if it is true, as Napoleon wrote to Carnot, the art of governance is not to let man grow stale, then it is an art of unbalancing. A crucial difference between a totalitarian regime and a free social order is perhaps in the methods of unbalancing by which their people are kept active and striving. Wow. That's interesting. That's deep in the political sense, which I don't want to go there yet. So we'll skip that. We are told that talent creates its own opportunities, yet it sometimes seems that intense desire creates not only its own opportunities, but its own talents as well. I think that's interesting. That's kind of thinking that willpower, desire can create your own opportunities, but it's your talent, your ability to do things that creates those opportunities. And when those opportunities occur, that's when your talents are shown and revealed. And that's fascinating. It's almost like you have to, if you think, it's like you think that I think, therefore I am type of thing. It's like if you think about something, it's going to manifest. I think it's funny, these weird synchronicities. Like I was playing a fishing game with my daughter last night, and I was kind of grinding, just fishing, trying to get money to move on to a different location and buy certain things, level up, all that jazz. So I was tired and I focused on just doing something else, but I was listening to the background of the game and I could hear a woodpecker going off and a whole bunch of other ambient sounds and noises. Today we went fishing earlier in the day and we heard a woodpecker woodpecking out in the pond. which we never really heard before, but we might never really have known. Maybe the woodpecker was woodpecking other times, but we didn't notice it because, well, we recently noticed it in the game that we're playing. It's just how things present themselves. The times of drastic change are times of passions. We can never be fit and ready for that which is wholly new. We have to adjust ourselves, and every radical adjustment is a crisis in self-esteem. We undergo a test. We have to prove ourselves. A population subjected to drastic change is thus a population of misfits, and misfits live and breathe in an atmosphere of passion. I guess you could say I'm a misfit. We do have to test and prove ourselves constantly, and it's in that pursuit that we find every little obstacle, every little opposition, some little, some big and major, and we can take control over these little things because we understand that how little it is. What I wonder is, if we think about these big things as little things, then are we able to change those as easily as what we perceive the little things, just because of our perception of it? Because, I mean, it's the idea of, well, that mountain is taller and much steeper, and it's going to be much harder than that one, which is lower and much, not as steep. And then you realize, well, each has its own difficulties. It's like you would think that the lower one, and that's not as steep, would be easier, but it just takes longer to traverse. And on a, even though it's at a not so steep level, but that taller one, that's steeper, well, we could climb that, and we can actually get there in a shorter period of time than we could because it's harder to walk. But we can't necessarily climb it like the steeper mountain, the more lower mountain type of thing. And so our perceptions changed a little bit. And go, well, whatever our mind is set at previously kind of affects our outcome. But if we don't let that perception or preception have an influence on us, then we'll be ready for anything. And we have the idea of, well, we'll figure out the best way to the end result we want, and make adjustments and make it easier, rather than having preconceived notions of whether it's going to be difficult or easy. And most people have the preconceived notions of what's difficult. So any idle time. So I'll probably see if I could start that new session. There we go. And I guess people won't be able to get in on this one, so I don't have to worry about that. Let's join audio, and we'll do that. All right, I think we're almost done here. We're reaching, it's been over 2 hours, and let's see. Here we go. That we pursue something passionately does not always mean that we really want it or have a special aptitude for it. Often the thing we pursue most passionately is but a substitute for the one thing we really want and cannot have. It is usually safe to predict that the fulfillment of an excessively cherished desire is not likely to still or nagging anxiety. In every passionate pursuit, the pursuit counts more than the object pursued. Yeah, I think we find that a lot, especially into this day, especially with how society is built up today. People want that woman that they can't have, and that woman is whatever, say too good looking, too smart, is higher in society, or is already married, or has a boyfriend that's like an athlete or superstar or celebrity, or Say not a woman, like they want that car. The car is too much for them. It's like, say, over $100,000. They don't have a job that they can afford it. It's and then we see in these stories, in these movies, like finally they did whatever they could to obtain said objective, woman, car. They go, well, I have it and I can get anything else. It's like, I don't care for it. They just move on to the next thing. And they're more looking for that pursuit than, what it is that they're looking for. And of course, we get to this crazy, never-ending cycle of we cause some form of injury to each other, whether intended to or not, just because of our id, I guess you could say, how our ego wants something more so than the reason for its wanting, in a way where it could affect someone else. Our sense of power is more vivid when we break a man's spirit than when we win his heart. For you can win a man's heart one day and lose it the next, but when we break a proud spirit, we achieve something that is final and absolute. And I think that's kind of the name of the game. People, they just want to they just feel that power, and they're powerless to do it. For some people, all they want to do is break someone's spirit. That's either the people at the top, where you think of an elite society or whatever, the system, the many systems of control, people, just I guess you could call low people. Eventually they'll break out of it. They figure their power lies in, we can do something horrible and look how powerful we are. But actually, that's really easy to break someone's spirit. More difficult is it to win someone's heart and keep it ongoing. We don't see much of that today, do we? But that's going to change. It is compassion rather than the principle of justice which can guard us against being unjust to our fellow men. Yes, I think that is true. If everyone had compassion, we wouldn't need justice. Injustice happens because incompassionate people do things because they're incompassionate, right? A lot of this goes into, it could go. It's funny how this is like what most people regard as martial arts, how to or whatever, and it's more philosophical in many ways, in many arenas, which is a beauty that most people don't get to see. How just utterly creative that is to do. Most people would be focused on Bruce Lee's physical exploits anyway, and his acting or martial arts abilities, and his like legendary type of whatever it is, like the mysticism of Bruce Lee. It's like, no, the beauty is in it, the reality of Bruce Lee, and his way of communicating and sharing of something he found very useful and essential for more than just fighting. It is doubtful whether there is such a thing as impulsive or natural tolerance. Tolerance requires an effort of thought and self-control. Acts of kindness, too, are rarely without deliberation and thoughtfulness. Thus, it seems that some artificiality, some posing and pretense is inseparable from any act or attitude which involves a limitation of our appetites and selfishness. Right. We ought to be aware of people who do not think it necessary to pretend that they are good and decent. Lack of hypocrisy in such things hints at a capacity for a more depraved ruthlessness. Wow. Pretense is often an indispensable step in the attainment of genuineness. It is a form into which genuine inclinations flow and solidify. The control of our being is not unlike the combination of a safe. One turn of the knob rarely unlocks the safe. Each advance and retreat is a step towards one's final achievement. Interesting. All right. Let's advance as a step toward one's final achievement. That's just a good analogy right there. We think it's a simple process of just opening and closing, and once it's open, we can keep it open. Yeah, but it's really not that simple. If it was simple, I think more people can achieve a lot of things that which we deem unachievable. All right, and this goes more into, like, we're almost done to page 2 and I have 213, and this is more of the Tao of Jeet Kune Do. Jeet Kune Do is not to hurt, but is one of the avenues through which life opens its secret to us. We can see through others only when we can see through ourselves, and Jeet Kune Do is a step toward knowing oneself. Self-knowledge is the basis of Jeet Kune Do because it is effective not only for the individual's martial art, but also for his life as a human being. I agree, because he used it as a philosophical approach, which is just wisdom, love of wisdom, and truth at the heart of it. Learning Jeet Kune Do is not a matter seeking knowledge or accumulating stylized pattern, but it is discovering the cause of ignorance. Yeah, the opposite of ignorance is not the opposition of knowledge. It's the opposition of wisdom, and the opposition of truth. I think the best quote, I can't quite remember it, but I know where it's about, is which I used before in many of my descriptions and quotes of the day. There are two ways to be fooled. This quote is by Soren Kierkegaard. There are two ways to be fooled. One is to believe what isn't true. The other is to refuse to believe what is true. Again, the quote by Soren Kierkegaard. There are two ways to be fooled. One is to believe what isn't true. The other is to refuse to believe what is true. And so I find that as what ignorance is. And of course, in order to find the truth, you have to seek it. Good stuff by Bruce Lee. If people say Jeet Kune Do is different from this or from that, then let the name of Jeet Kune Do be wiped out, for that is what it is, just a name. Please don't fuss over it. Oh man, good stuff. I would have enjoyed having a conversation with Bruce Lee. We would have probably gone into philosophy. Probably ask him questions about what made him approach martial arts in this way, in a philosophical approach. I mean, and why this particular philosophy? You know, there's so many different philosophies he could have picked. Why these specific ones? And what is it about them that resonated with him? Because it didn't resonate with me all the time, particularly. You could tell by, some of the ones that I skipped. But anyways, I hope you enjoyed that. I don't know how I thought I would have figured out I could have done this on Sunday when my son was asleep. Attempting to take a nap, but I thought I could have. But anyways, I got it done now. Thank you for joining me on this. I know I segued early on, but I think that's useful information for people and something that they can do themselves. Create their own statistics when the statistics that should be around for them is not there. Don't let people dictate what's true, not true, and all this other stuff. it won't really affect you. The whole coronavirus, COVID-19 doesn't affect me. I don't let it affect me. I would just do the things I normally do. And if it comes to the point where I'm physically forced not to do it, of course, I'll just retaliate in that same or more force, right? Simple as that. Anyways, thank you for joining me tonight, and I'll see you another night.